Hello, duck hunters, imitator owners. Ted Williams here, SOAB Hunting Company. This video is an instructional video going along with the recall I had to make because of that manufacturing issue we had. We had two parts here. This very top plate has an insert in it right in the top, little metal insert, and there's the same insert in the motor plate right below it. Those inserts apparently during their manufacturing process left a sharp edge in there and it was cutting everybody's string. Getting phone calls, hey, my line's breaking, losing my decoy. 5-10 minutes worth of operating. Well, that was frustrating for them. I hate it for them because you lose your motion. You know, you got to have motion. And then I hated it probably as much or worse than they did. And all I could do was try to make it right. So they had a recall on these, on the two parts that have that insert in it, at the very top and the motor plate. And we got it out last week to most everybody who responded to the recall request. I think there's still some that hadn't responded. I hope they'll respond. At any rate, I'm going to show y'all how to replace those two parts in this video. By the way, this camera is a God story in itself. Last season, I was making a video out of Lake Palestine, had the tripod and the camera sitting on top of the boat. On the deck, I tried to climb in the boat. And of course the boat rocks, wasn't thinking about it, the tripod and everything falls off in the water. It was shallow water, so I was able to retrieve the camera, but it wouldn't work. I tried it several times since then, dried it out, changed batteries, wouldn't work. 2 weeks ago I tried it, wouldn't work. So I got online last couple of weeks trying to find one. That whole camera unit there was 300 something bucks like 8 or 9 years ago, including the receiver on top of the mic, this lapel mic, and this little transmitter. 300 something bucks. You can't find that anymore. Minimum 12 to 1500 bucks for a camera. I don't have that kind of money right now. I just spent about $20,000 on this recall. So I don't make that kind of money. So I decided today, I forgot to make the video. I mailed everybody's parts out last week, or last weekend this week, and I had to get the video out. So I said, I want to try it one more time, then I'll have to borrow one or something. Wasn't sure. Turned it on today, thing works fine. Been working since. So give God the glory. I have no other explanation for it. So I guess it's amazing. So we'll give God the glory for that one. Okay, we'll get with it. And starting, I would take the strings and cut the strings off, just get them out of the way. You can do it without taking strings off. Then you got to deal with strings every time you move a part. It's not worth it. Go ahead and take a knife, cut the string off right here where it ties on that side, also where it ties on this side, and cut both strings off, get them out of the way. It's a lot simpler. Start off with this imitator a long ways away from you with the toggle switch on the right. There's a reason for that. Take your Phillips screwdriver, undo these 4 screws. I've already done it for time's sake. Keep the screws, get rid of this plate. You can't tell the difference between the new ones and the old ones. Take the screws out, get it away so you don't get it mixed up with the old one and the new one, because you won't be able to tell the difference. You'll have the same problem. So get rid of it. I don't have to, that's the new one. There's a pulley in here. Take the flute, 2 flat items I mentioned. You might can even do it with your fingers. I'll use a knife and a screwdriver just in case. Get on opposite sides of the pulley, pry that pulley up, get it out of here. Be careful, there's a pin with a holder with a pin in it. This is what retracts and extends to grab the string and release the decoy. It needs to stay in there. Falls out, no big deal. Just put it back in from the top side. You can't get it from the bottom side. It's got to go in from the top side. Get it out of the way. You've got 4 motor mount screws in here that hold that motor up against the motor plate. I've already loosened all but one just for time's sake. When you get them all loose, your motor should drop through when you pick this up. So the motor stays in there. Keep these screws. Keep them too. You're going to have to reuse them. You're going to throw this away, but don't throw it away yet, because there's one thing we got to use out of it. I would have, if I could have got them, I would have replaced everybody's gasket so you wouldn't have to mess with it, but I can't get the material. Supply chain problem is everything else now. So we can reuse this gasket right here. So what I do is take a knife, something sharp, flat, that you can get in between the gasket and the outside of that groove right there. Slide it a little bit down to make sure you're down the bottom under the gasket. Then you can pry that gasket out. Throw that away. This is a new one, I'm gonna throw it away. Lay this back down and lay this down with this tab right here next to the box, pointing at the box. When you put this in there, back in the new motor plate, the gasket, try to get it kind of loose everywhere. Try to get the tension about the same. It's not hard to do. Just loosely get it in there. Don't force it. Then take your finger and kind of punch it around in there. Get it down in the groove. I wouldn't take my finger and slide it because you'll wind up pushing some of the gasket forward. Once you get it in there a little ways, you can probably slide your finger a little bit. But first, you just got to kind of get it in there. And it'll go the rest of the way when you put it back on the top. It'll squish in there. Okay. Now you got your motor loose. You got the top wire. Should be the top wire of the motor. Red wire goes to the toggle switch here on top. I would use a Phillips screwdriver, wouldn't use a gun. I've done enough of them. I'm not going to hurt anything with it, but I wouldn't use a gun. Take that off. Your black wire, ground wire of the motor is on this ground terminal of this battery. Take it off. Now your motor's loose. Now we're going to go backwards. We're going to put the motor on this new motor plate. I'd like to start off with the red wire facing me, or actually both facing me, but especially the red wire. And then this little tab I talked about, line it up with the red wire. Like that, they're lined up. Get out of here. Now, turn it counterclockwise and you'll feel this motor plate drop down in a little slot. And you can only move it back and forth a little direction. That's where you want to be. And then you want to kind of stop about in the middle of that gap there, that slack, because that's where your screws for your motor are going to line up pretty close. And it doesn't have to be perfect right now. I'll show you how to get it in just a second. So put your screws in there. Now, once you get them in there, kind of twist it a little bit back and forth, just a little, and they'll kind of find those holes and they'll be lined up. Take your Allen wrench, which I supplied the 2mm Allen wrench when I sent this stuff, but I didn't send everybody one of these. I use this because it's faster and easier, and I couldn't buy everybody one of them. I did send you a little cheap 2mm Allen wrench, so tighten them up pretty tight. Not as tight as you can get it, maybe, but pretty snug, and I would do opposite sides. Here to here and here to here. Don't go around in a circle. Try to help distribute that pressure a little bit better. Okay. Put this thing back down with that tab facing the box. You can hook this motor wire, red motor wire, back up to the toggle. Again, I'd use a Phillips screwdriver, not a gun. You can get this one too tight pretty fast. That little toggle switch isn't very strong. Hook your motor wire, ground wire back to your ground of this battery. Now you're hooked back up. Should come on. And it does. Stuff this back in there. Make sure you don't get any wires between this lid and this box. Stuff them down in there. And if they're right, if everything's right, you should be able to pretty snap all four corners fairly evenly if everything's right. Now, going back with the pulley, you'll notice there's a flat side of this insert in the middle of this pulley. There's also a flat side on that shaft. They have to line up. They only go one way. Now, if the orientation of that shaft, based on what direction that shaft is pointing, makes this pulley or pin holder in the pulley travel in this groove right here, if it lines up where that round part in the bottom of that pulley falls in this round part of this groove, then the pin has to be all the way out, like it is right here. But if it happens to fall where that round part falls in this straight section right here, then the pin has to be in. You can either move the pin in and out to make it line up, or turn the motor on if you want it to line up between here and here in the round part with the pin out. Just turn the motor on where the shaft turns enough to do that. But this one is going to be in the round part, so it needs to be out because it's falling in part of the round part. There, ought to fall right in there. I would turn it on, let it go around a couple of times. It should retract right there. Extends back out, so it's working right. And you turn it off, but don't turn it off where that pin is above that insert, because you're going to fix to put a string through that. You don't want that pin blocking that insert. Now you can go back with the top back on it, put your screws in it, line that insert up there with that insert right there. They have to line up with the strings going through both sides. And also make these screws line up with these screw holes right here. Here, they line up as well as that insert. I usually put my finger on them. I can feel that they're lined up real good. And you can tighten them up. Motor's on, or this gun, screw gun's on 3. Well, it's not going to get them too tight. And you don't have to get these very tight. It's not a waterproof compartment under there. There's a hole right here at the top, not waterproof. But it's getting just snug. Get it too tight, it almost pulls them top down too hard and rubs the pulley. So just get them snug. Now, it's coming on fine. We can tie our strings back on. It's important. The string that makes the decoy dive is actually the smaller string and the lighter green string. You would think it'd be the heavier string, but it's not. The smaller string, the lighter green string is the diving string, and it goes through the inserts, through both of them because they're lined up, ties on a little tab right here. This string has a little bit of memory, so if you can pull it kind of hard and straight, it'll stay pretty straight. And you can push it right down through there. It'll come through, and then it also goes through a little hole in that tab right here where it ties onto. I use a hemostat. I work at a hospital. I can get them. Use a needle nose pliers, something. Reach under that tab, pull that string out from under the tab. It's going to tie to. I tie a little knot. Hopefully you know how to tie a slip knot. If not, you may not need to be walking around the woods with a gun in your hand. I'm not sure. Anyway, here's how a slip knot, in case you don't know how to tie a slip knot. I just cross it over my finger, and you make a circle underneath, and by doing that, you make a little hole. Put that knot through that hole, that loop that you made, and then you can kind of suck the string down on it. Right there, I pull it out here where it gets close to the ends. You don't have a big old piece of string hanging out. That's it. Snug up against it. It won't slip. Snugged up against there. Then wrap the string around the ears. First prototype, I didn't have these ears on here. The strings were coming loose and dragging everywhere, tripping over them. That didn't work. When you hook this O-ring on here, I put the O-rings on there just to make it simple. Don't get it real tight. If you stretch it plumb across and get it real tight, you're not going to have a very long life of that O-ring. It'll start cracking. Just hook it on something. Just tight it up to make it stay on, not come off and hold your string. Same thing with the other one. This is the other string designed to pick the decoy or the unit up and down with. It's actually bigger, just trot line string. So it goes from this through this tab on top through the one on the bottom. It ties on this bottom one. I like to scoot it over to the edge of the table where I can go through this tab. Put the string through the top one there and through this bottom one. Again, tie a knot in the end. Another slip knot. Go around your finger. Make a little loop. Stick the knot through that loop you make. Suck it down. Voila. And then wrap your string around it. You'll be good to go. So guys, I'm sorry for the trouble. It is fixed. Won't be a problem. I made a couple changes on now on the molds and stuff to try to minimize or eliminate any problem. And you should be good to go. So I'm sorry for the trouble, and hopefully this video will help. One other thing, don't forget to be a SOABer. I'm gonna have a video coming out on that. SOABER. I actually put one of these in each one of y'all's boxes when I sent you the parts. A SOABer, share one another's burdens. That's someone who helps somebody without anything in it for them. Nothing in it for you. No money, no nothing. Actually, to be a real SOABer, it's actually cost you something, time, have to put off something for the benefit of somebody else with nothing in it for you. So be a SOABer, help people out. Thank you guys.